Howdy y'all, and welcome to Lola'S Critter Farm. This is episode 3. And if you don't know, this is a show where I take some of the thoughts swimming around my brain like little sea monkeys. We squeeze them out, and something fun comes out, usually a creature, a critter, or an animal. Sometimes all three. The way that I like to start this show is asking myself, what have I been thinking about this week? Do you guys remember Aqua Pets? They were like these little guys stuck in a test tube of water, and then you had these buttons, and when you press the buttons, you could like make them dance and make them make sounds. Aqua Pets got me thinking about one of my favorite tropes in media, which is the head in a jar, body separate. I think for a while we were all really focused on sort of cryogenic freezing when it comes to preserving people after they're dead. But for a minute, we were all really into the jar head thing. You could swap the jars, you could put different heads on different bodies, you could put the heads away from the body, it was limitless possibilities, and I think we should go back to that as sort of a beacon of the future. We see the head in jars a lot in Futurama, and that had me thinking that the sort of combo between Aqua Pets and Head Jar is those aliens from The Simpsons. They're pretty sick, so that's up there on the board. And last but not least, we have what is quite possibly the diametric opposite of the Aqua Pet, which is those little sticky hands. Sometimes you get them in a quarter machine, sometimes they're stuck in the cup holder in the back of your mom's van. We don't always know where they come from, but they are always there. The cool thing about them is they will never go out of style. Name me a single kid that does not want a sticky hand. They all do. I want a sticky hand, okay? So those are my references this week, and let's take this into a sketch. Alright, so first we got a little jar, and then we got the most important part, the body that the jar sits on. So I just made it as goofy as physically possible because we are going to be putting these stretchy hands, and I figured that would make sense biologically. What doesn't make sense biologically, but I still did it anyways, is I did give it big ol' yitties because I thought it would be funny and cool, and so I did. And then I put a shark in the jar. I know that that's like played out. Yeah, we all know Damien Hirst did it. I don't like Damien Hirst, so this isn't really a reference to him. I just figured sharks are cooler than fish, even though sharks, I believe, are fish, but I wanted to put a shark in there. And it has nothing to do with that stupid big ol' shark in a tank piece of art, okay? This is purely me. I have only original thoughts, thank you very much. And then we're just gonna give her, since she has two different personalities, she has to have two different wardrobes. So we have one side that's kind of like, a groovy beach babe, and then the other side is like a hot dominatrix chick. And that is the finished sketch. So how are we gonna make this bad boy? Bad boy is a gender neutral term, so I don't wanna hear it. Step 1, body yaddy 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 yaddy. Before we start the body yaddy 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 yaddy, we must consider the jar. The jar that I have is a tiny jar. More importantly, it is a tiny jar from Grandpa's Cheese Barn. What is Grandpa's Cheese Barn, you might ask? Well, let's take a little detour. Grandpa's Cheese Barn is a gem of the Midwest. It is located in Ashland, Ohio. I used to go there as a child. It was one of my favorite places in the world. You show up, it's a barn in the middle of nowhere, and it's full of cheese. They also have jams, jellies, butters, oils, chocolate, ice cream. They got it all. But the cheese is the main thing. And you would just go and taste test all of the different cheeses. They have every cheese you could possibly think of. Cheeses you've never even thought of. Yes. It is one of the most important landmarks in the entire state of Ohio. All right, now that we've prayed to Grandpa's Cheese Barn, let's start making the body. We're gonna do clay. I know that I've been doing a lot of clay, but this one's gonna have some fun stuff as well, so bear with me. So basically, I'm just gonna make a mound. Once I have the general mound shape, I'm gonna take that jar and I'm just gonna punch it in the middle so that it creates a bit of a crater. So that's where it's gonna sit, like a little pocket. Then I'm gonna take a clay tool and kind of scallop the edges because I wanna make sure that this body looks extra goopy, like it just melted on the table. And then we're gonna put the bubbies up there, and some of you might say, hey, this looks like a show that's for children. And I would say, I know, but it's not. Am I an adult woman? Yes. Have I been regressing into childhood for the last 8 years? Yes. It's none of your business. All right, and once I'm happy with the body, I'm gonna take some dental floss I'm just gonna scrape that up. You may or may not know that clay shrinks as it dries, and so before it's totally dry, I'm going to go in there with another clay tool and hollow out that crater because I want to make sure that the jar does in fact fit when it is dry. When it is fully dry, we're going to paint it. Now, I did have a bit of a Goldilocks and the Three Bears situation with the painting. First it was too light, then it was too dark. Then it was just right. And I settled on this sort of middling teal blue color, which normally would be one of my least favorite colors in the entire world. But in context, it worked. Step 2. This gal's got a no nudity clause in her contract, so we do have to make her some clothing. So we're just gonna make some tiny little clothing patterns. We got a little bikini out of some old t-shirt material that I had. Pretty simple, triangles and a strip, whatever, easy, colored in, who cares. And then for the more sort of strappy leather thing, I took some shiny black fabric, cut out a bunch of strips, made some little rings with some wire, and then we just honestly hot glued everything together. I have fallen in love with hot glue again, and I think I was a bit of an elitist for a while, and I loved my E6000 super glue, but I was wrong because sometimes the project dictates hot glue is the best thing, and that's okay. We are not highbrow here. We are very specifically middle to low brow. And now we got 2 cute little swimmy suits. Well, one of them's kind of just a belt. All right, step 3, we gotta make these little sticky hands, which are also conveniently legs. Store-bought is fine, but I prefer to make my own, and I had a theory that I had some very special goop that could do the job. It is 2-part rubber mold making rubber stuff. So after I mix the master goo, what I'm gonna do is I take this sort of template that I drew out with vague hand shapes, and I'm just gonna take the master goop and I'm gonna drizzle it on and try my best to stay within the lines and fail miserably, but that's okay because we will deal with that later and we will shape them. So we got the little sticky ickies, and to make them more hand-like, I'm just gonna chop some little fingers in there. This stuff's pretty resilient, so it doesn't really break unless you're really trying, and I am a delicate girl. So I'm gonna trace the bottom of the body to create a plate to put all of the legs on, and then I'm basically just gonna figure out where I wanna arrange them, and then I glue them. Turns out hot glue does not work on this rubber stuff, so then I just end up taping them, and at the end of the day, we got this terrifying little set of legs, and I would just like to know, what would you do if you saw one of these guys scuttling through your apartment? Okay, the last step is a little BB shark. Make a tiny shark out of clay, and then make it glam. Oh, but wait, how are we going to make the clay shark float in tiny jar? Option 1, water. Boy, that's not gonna work. Water and dry clay do not mix, and also clay does not float in water, so dummy. Option 2, resin. Okay, cool, that would be fun, except for the fact where the resin materials that I bought at the beginning of quarantine, that I've literally never used, are all dried up, and I don't want to go buy more, and I don't want to return something that I bought 2 years ago. That's rude. Option number 3, we could use a non-water liquid, like oil or glycerin or whatever lava lamp stuff is made out of. Cool, that sounds fun, except for the fact where it involves research, and guess what? I was very much middling in chemistry in high school, and even though I love science, I don't really feel like looking into it right now. So then, as I was sitting, confused and depressed because I couldn't figure out the answer to this question, it came to me in a dream. What has always been there when I am sad and confused? Slime. Slime is the answer. And a quick side note, at least once a week I think about how I could have better used my 4 years at film school becoming a slime YouTuber, because I could have just made a bunch of slime, had a blast, and made a ton of money along the way. But hindsight is 20/20, so do with that what you will. You mix up the slime, you put it in a jar, and then, to my delight, you gotta wait. You hope that by the end of, 3 to 7 days, it looks beautiful and glassy. Could I have waited longer? Yeah. Did I follow the recipe to a T? Not really. Once the slime is ready, we must transfer it to its final vessel. It feels very ceremonious, and I don't know if you can tell, but I was raised Catholic, which explains everything about this video. So, what did we learn today? Grandpa's Cheese Barn is a cultural institution. Sharks can also be glamorous, and those sticky hands will outlive all of us. Let's throw all of this in the pot and see what comes out. Well, 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 wouldn't you look at this bodacious babe? Where is she going? Is she going to the club? Is she going grocery shopping? We don't know. Now, in honor of forcing my roommate to watch my favorite TV show of all time, 6 Feet Under, we're gonna name this girlie Brenda 3. So, welcome to the family, Brenda 3. I think she's really gonna mix the dynamic up, if you know what I mean. Thanks for tuning in, and if you come around next time, I think someone else might just show up. Bye.